Prosecutors and the defense team for disgraced attorney Alex Murdaugh appeared in court today for a status conference. This follows allegations from Murdaugh's defense claiming Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill warned the jury ahead of Murdaugh taking the stand in his own defense and influenced them negatively against the defendant in doing so on a number of occasions, with Judge Clifton Newman having to recuse himself from the case because he, in fact, may himself be a judge. Judge Dean Toll presided over today's hearing to lay the groundwork down for the rulings for the evidentiary hearing that is scheduled to happen this month. Just so everybody understands, what happens here is the defense files a motion for a new trial because of misconduct of the jurors, and then there's going to be a fact-finding, direct and cross-examination of witnesses so that the new judge can make a determination if in fact those allegations are accurate, and if so, whether legally that should require a reversal of Alex Murdaugh's conviction. Those hearings will involve testimony as to why Murdaugh has or has not actually received a fair trial. Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison without parole after a jury found him guilty of fatally shooting his wife Maggie and son Paul in June of 2021. Now, court has officially recessed for the day, and an evidentiary hearing for this is now scheduled on the calendar for January 29th. But joining us live from outside the courthouse, as we always have in the Murdaugh case, we have Gigi McKelvey with us, host of the podcast Pretty Lies and Alibis. Good to have you with us, Gigi. It's been a while. How you been?
Good. It's good to be back with you guys.
Yeah, so Gigi, let's recap today's hearing and what it means going forward for Murdaugh's bid for a new trial. Like, what's the feel in that courthouse? Because from what we're seeing on our end, like, if it's true the clerk did this, this is pretty much the most outrageous, egregious official act I've ever seen of a court personnel with regard to a jury. But do people out there in the scuttlebutt of legal land believe that this could ultimately lead to a reversal of this conviction?
Well, up until today, a lot of people thought that was the case, but Judge Toll has made very clear this isn't going to be a trial for Becky Hill. This is really going to revolve around what did you hear her say to you about Alex Murdaugh and his potential guilt or innocence, and did that affect your verdict? She said this was not going to be a trial for Becky Hill. So it seems like it's going to be such a narrow scope of what's going to be put on the stand. So now, you know, just talking to everybody after the hearing, people think the chances of a new trial went way down today.
Well, that's really interesting, that, Gigi, that you say that, because I was just saying before to my guest, the manner in which a judge holds a hearing can make a critical difference in the outcome of that hearing. And the judge was making it very clear that they were limiting the defense as to what information they were going to allow to be introduced here, leaving the door open that if down the road I find it relevant, I'll let it in. But to the point that you just raised, and if it affected the juror's decision, I mean, that's where the judge can hang their hat and say, I mean, I've been through these hearings before. I know what's going to happen. I mean, I almost virtually guarantee that jurors going to say, oh, no, I did it based on the law and facts. But do we really believe that? Is this the kind of judge that's just going to believe that and that's going to be the end of it? Or is this the kind of judge that's going to challenge these jurors?
I don't get the sense that she's going to challenge the jurors. I think she's going to trust what they say and that they've upheld their oath as jurors. And the other big thing, too, is, you know, the juror known as Egg Lady. As of right now, the judge has ruled she doesn't come in, only the 12 deliberating jurors. So it's going to be very interesting to see. There was one juror who said that she felt a little pressure to vote guilty, but ultimately, did she make that decision on her own? And who pressured her? You know, was it the other jurors or was it Becky Hill? So I guess we'll find that out at the evidentiary at the end of the month. But yeah, it was defeat after defeat, it seems, for the defense today.
And it sounds like the sirens don't disagree. So let's ask you this question then: if we can expect, what can we expect from both sides as they present their case? Like, what do you think the defense is going to be doing, and what do you anticipate the strategic moves of the prosecutor will be at this point?
I mean, it seems like the only thing they're going to do is, the judge ruled that these jurors are going to be in open court. Their faces, of course, can't be shown, but we can see them. And it's just really going to be those two questions from what everybody thinks is, was your vote influenced by Becky Hill specifically? And I don't think that the prosecution may have to do a whole lot if those questions or the answers to those questions are no.
I mean, this is really, honestly, as a person who's practiced on both sides of the fence, as a prosecutor, defense lawyer, the way the judge asked the questions, and I'll tell you how it goes, Gigi. Let's wait to see if we hear things like, you're not telling me that if the court clerk said that to you, that it would have influenced you when I specifically told you not to let a third party or a third thing influence. You wouldn't do that, would you? I mean, sometimes just that alone. Is there any agreement on what questions will be asked or how they'll be asked, or do we have to just wait to see what the judge does?
We just have to wait and see. None of that was really brought up today. And there are some things that the defense can file with the judge to reconsider, possibly with the egg lady, as she's become to be known as. But it just really seems this is going to be such a narrow scope, such a narrow line of questioning. And we were all talking in the hall that we don't even know if this evidentiary hearing is going to take a full day, maybe a day and a half at that. But it seems like it's going to be one and done. She said that she thought she could get the jurors in and finished in one day. Becky Hill also required to be there at the start of court. So maybe the judge is anticipating she can interview these jurors and Becky in the same day. We'll see. Yeah. But it seems like this has really been toned down from what we thought it was going to be.
Wow, I really, that's really a shame, because I could see that the kind of like quote unquote fixes in. Let's talk about Becky Hill for 1 second. If I were Becky Hill's attorney, I would be extremely reticent about her getting up and offering any kind of testimony in a proceeding like this. I'm sure out there in South Carolina, they've got laws like official misconduct or influencing jurors or things of that nature. And again, the defense lawyer in me would say, I don't want you up there, because if what's being said in these affidavits and these pieces of paper from jurors is true, you will have violated your oath of office. Is there any talk about her taking the fifth, if you will, or the prosecutor granting immunity so that they can get past the fifth?
There was some talk about the fifth. The defense's position is that she answered these allegations in an affidavit, therefore should not be able to plead the fifth.
Who said that?
None of that was really. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, who said that? Who made that argument?
That was Mr. Harpootlian. They brought that up, that she answered some of these allegations in an affidavit and therefore she should have to testify to them. The thing is, it's a lot of those things went beyond just the jury tampering. It was, the judge just made very clear, we're not going to put Becky Hill on trial here. This is going to be just about what happened during the course of the trial, which is, did she influence any jurors? So whether or not she wants to plead the fifth on that, maybe she gets up and answers and says, I didn't say that. But no other witnesses are brought in. They can't call attorneys. They cannot call, anybody other than right now than these jurors and Becky Hill. So it seems like it's just going to be very limited into what's going to happen in that courtroom at the end of the month. Yeah,
let's drill down that Harpootlian thing. First of all, the fact that you speak to somebody doesn't mean that, oops, that's it, hot potato, you have to speak forever. You always have a right to be able to assert your right to remain silent at any stage. But I think that this is important, because do we have any sensibility as to whether or not the defense or the prosecution intends to call her as a witness? Any thoughts about that?
I would assume the defense is going to call her. The judge, they'll have to subpoena her, and that was talked about today. The judge is really leaving it to both sides to take care of all of this. She said she could intervene if there's a problem, but I'm sure the defense will subpoena her and put her on the stand. So I do expect to hear from Becky Hill when this gets started.
Yeah, I don't know about that Fifth Amendment thing. I'd really be interested to see that. Gigi, before we have you go, what's the number one takeaway, the thing that surprised you the most when you first went there today and now you're here, transported it back into the present moment? What did you not expect to have heard?
Just that a lot of the things that we've read in these filings over the last few weeks, pretty much none of it's coming in. That surprised me. It's just she is not going to let this become something other than what happened during the course of the trial. I thought maybe some other things may come in. Harpootlian was really wanting to attack her credibility, bring in the plagiarism accusations with her book, saying that she bring in these emails, by the way, the thousands of emails that have been released. And the judge said no. They may be able to bring in a few, but he will have to submit those to the judge, and then she'll decide whether or not they're relevant to come in. So we really thought it was going to be a lot more witnesses, a lot more evidence. They had said they intended on calling Becky Hill's daughter even, but now it just seems like really the jurors and Becky is going to be it. And this could be a really quick evidentiary hearing.
Yeah, the judge left the door open just a little bit with that. Well, I'm not going to make rulings on evidence until the testimony is coming out, and then I'll be able to make the ruling in context of the testimony. So sometimes that gives the judge the wiggle room to open it up just a little bit more. Gigi McKelvey, always doing a great job out there in South Carolina. Appreciate it, and we'll have you back soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more on the other end. Please stay with us.